Morning came slowly on the strange world. Golden light spilled through the glowing trees, washing over the crash site. The Resolute's remains lay scattered like pieces of a fallen dream. Liara stood by the stream, washing blood and ash from her hands. The night had been long, but Aaron was alive, barely. The nano-serum had saved him, but his body was weak. His breath came steady now, calm against the hum of alien life. For the first time she looked at him not as the man who bought her freedom, but as something more, a human who had chosen compassion over conquest. When he stirred, she hurried to his side. "Easy," she said gently. "You're still healing." Aaron opened his eyes, blinking at the light. "Still here?" he whispered. "Guess I owe you my life now." Liara smiled faintly. "We're even?" He looked around slowly. "Where are we?" "Somewhere the galaxy forgot," she said. "But someone, or something, found us." She showed him the glowing symbols the glass-like beings had left behind. They pulsed faintly in the dirt, forming a map of stars, a path to somewhere distant. Aaron stared at them in silence. "Coordinates," he murmured. "I've seen that pattern before." Liara frowned. "You know where it leads?" He nodded slowly. "To Eidolon. An ancient world. It's said to hold the archives of the first species that ever met humanity." Liara blinked. "First species? I thought humans came from one planet." Aaron smiled softly. "We did. But the universe didn't leave us alone for long." He leaned back, staring at the rising sun. "The first time aliens found us, they tried to test us, to see if we could survive their world. They called us Deathworlders. They meant it as an insult." He looked at her then, his voice growing softer. "But you know what humans did. We laughed, because that's what we do. We survive, we endure, and we love, even when the universe gives us every reason not to." Liara didn't speak. The words settled deep inside her. For years, she'd thought love was weakness. But this human, this broken, stubborn, kind man, had turned it into strength. Suddenly, Miri ran toward them, her small voice full of joy. "Mama, look!" She pointed to the sky. Above them, streaks of light danced, hundreds of ships descending through the clouds. But these weren't Trelak warships. Their hulls shone with the symbol of the Earth Alliance. Aaron sat up, a faint smile on his lips. "They found us." Liara's heart raced. "What will you tell them?" He looked at her. And the child. The alien mother who once sold herself, and the child who gave him hope. "I'll tell them the truth," he said quietly. "That mercy saved us, when war couldn't. That humanity isn't the galaxy's curse. It's its chance to start again." Liara reached for his hand. "And us?" Aaron squeezed her fingers gently. "We'll find Eidolon. Together." As the sun rose higher, painting the sky in gold, the wreckage of the Resolute glimmered like a monument. To those who watched from orbit, it looked like a fallen ship. But to Liara and Aaron, it was the beginning of something greater. A promise, written not in blood, but in love, carried forever among the stars. The escape pod tore through the planet's atmosphere like a falling star. Fire blazed across the sky, painting long trails of orange light before the pod crashed into a dense alien forest with a deafening roar. Then, silence. Smoke rose from the wreckage as the emergency hatch hissed open. Liara crawled out first, coughing, her hair covered in ash and leaves. The air was heavy, but breathable. Strange purple trees loomed around her, their glowing leaves whispering in the wind. She turned back to the pod. "Aaron!" Inside, Captain Hale lay unconscious, his uniform torn and bloodied. The seat straps had burned through. His chest rose weakly. He was alive, but fading fast. "Mama?" a small voice called. Miri peeked from the shadows of the pod, holding her toy close. Liara forced a smile. "It's all right, my star. We're safe now." Safe. The word felt fragile. This planet was unknown. No signals. No ships. No help. Just her. Her child. And a dying human. She dragged Aaron out of the pod, every breath burning her lungs. She laid him under a large tree, the roots glowing faintly blue. His skin was pale, lips dry, pulse fading. Liara whispered, "Don't you dare die now, human. Not after everything." She searched the emergency kit and found a small injector labeled Nano Repair Serum. She hesitated. It was made for humans. The dosage was risky. Too much, and it could kill him instantly. She looked at Miri, who was staring silently. Then, without another thought, Liara injected it into his arm. Aaron gasped sharply, his eyes opening wide in pain, then breathing steadied. The colour began to return to his face. Liara let out a shaky breath. "Good. That's better. You still owe me answers." Hours passed. The alien night was unlike anything she'd seen. Stars moved slowly in patterns that felt alive. Faint lights danced across the sky, and the wind carried whispers that almost sounded like voices. Miri slept, curled beside Aaron, using his jacket as a blanket. Liara stayed awake, watching the strange horizon. Every noise, every shadow, made her grip the plasma knife tighter. But then she heard movement. Soft, deliberate steps. She stood quickly, eyes scanning the trees. Out of the mist stepped 3 tall figures. Not human, not Trelak. Their bodies shimmered like glass, their eyes glowing silver. They spoke in a language that vibrated the air itself. One of them tilted its head. "You are Deathworlders?" Liara froze. The word stung her ears. Deathworlders. The galaxy's whispered name for humans. She shook her head slowly. "He is. I'm not." The aliens looked at the unconscious Aaron, then back at her. "Then you carry the curse with you," one said softly. "And the blessing." Before she could speak, they vanished into light, leaving behind strange glowing marks on the ground. Coordinates. Liara stared at them, heart racing. Whoever they were, they knew something about humans, something even Aaron hadn't told her. She looked at him, sleeping now, peaceful, fragile, and impossibly strong. Under the alien moonlight, Liara whispered, "You saved my life, human. Now it's my turn." And as the wind carried her words into the glow, the battlefield was silent. Wreckage drifted across space like glowing ghosts, broken pieces of the Trelak fleet slowly spinning through the void. The Resolute floated among them, its hull scarred and smoking, engines humming weakly. Inside, the lights flickered. Sparks fell from the ceiling. The ship had survived the impossible, but barely. Liara held Miri tightly as the air vents hissed, filling the cabin with smoke. She could barely see Aaron through the haze, slumped over the console, one hand still gripping the controls. "Aaron!" she called, rushing forward. His face was pale, sweat shining under the dim red light. A deep burn ran across his arm. He opened one eye and gave a weak smile. Still, in one piece, he muttered. Liara knelt beside him. You used that weapon, didn't you? He didn't answer. The core beneath the deck still glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. Slower now, dimmer. You said it wasn't a weapon, she whispered. Aaron laughed softly, though it sounded more like a breath of pain. Depends who's holding it. The ship's systems beeped urgently. Oxygen levels were dropping. The power core had destabilized. Liara gritted her teeth. You saved us. But now this ship is dying. Not dying, Aaron said quietly. Recovering. Like me. She stared at him, torn between anger and fear. Why risk your life for us? For me and my child? Aaron's gaze met hers. Steady, human, unbreakable. Because no one should have to sell themselves to survive. Liara froze. His words hit deeper than any wound. No alien, no soldier, no savior had ever spoken to her like that. Not with pity, but with truth. A low rumble shook the floor. Miri screamed. The hull creaked. Pressure failure. Aaron pulled himself up, stumbling toward the main console. Get her to the escape pod, he ordered. Liara shook her head. No, you'll die if you stay. He smiled faintly. Then I'll die doing something decent. The pod lights blinked to life. Liara could see the panic in her daughter's eyes, the same fear she'd felt when their world burned. But something inside her changed. She turned back to Aaron, grabbed his arm, and forced him toward the pod. You don't get to decide who lives alone, human, she said fiercely. You saved us. Now I save you. For the first time, Aaron looked genuinely surprised. Then he laughed, a real, tired laugh. You sound like a human. Maybe I learned from one, she said softly. Together they climbed into the pod, sealing it as the Resolute's core began to overload. Through the viewport, Liara watched as the once mighty ship, the human ship that had defied an empire, erupted into a blinding light. The explosion rippled silently through space, scattering the remains of both enemy and hero. Inside the pod, Miri slept against Liara's chest. Aaron sat beside them, breathing shallowly, staring into the stars. Liara whispered, Was it worth it? When the final explosion faded, only silence remained. The stars looked peaceful again, as if nothing had happened. Miri peeked through the viewport and gasped softly. The bad ships are gone. Aaron smiled faintly. They always are, when humans decide they should be. Liara stared at him, not with fear, but awe. You could have destroyed them all, but you stopped. He nodded slowly. Because victory without mercy isn't victory. It's revenge. Outside, debris drifted through the starlight like dying embers. The galaxy would remember this battle, not just for the destruction, but for the moment the universe learned what humans truly were. Deathworlders, who laughed in the face of extinction. And as the Resolute vanished into the endless dark, Liara whispered to herself, No wonder the galaxy fears them. The stars outside the Resolute burned red as the Trelac war fleet closed in. Hundreds of alien warships surrounded the small human vessel, their glowing cannons lighting the void like suns. The comms crackled with the Trelac commander's voice, cold, proud, cruel. "Human ship, you have something that belongs to the Empire. Surrender it, and we might let you die quickly." Captain Aaron Hale didn't answer. His hands moved silently across the control panel, steady as if he'd done this 1,000 times before. Liara stood behind him, clutching Miri close, her heart pounding. The child's tiny voice trembled. "Mama, are we going to die?" Aaron turned, kneeling before them. "Not today," he said softly, "but I need you both to trust me." He rose and tapped the comm switch. "This is Captain Hale of the Resolute. You bombed our world once. You enslaved our friends. And now you think you can scare us?" He smiled faintly. Adorable. The Trelac ships began charging their main weapons. Liara saw the readouts spike, hundreds of energy signatures all locking onto their position. "You can't fight them all!" she shouted. Aaron didn't flinch. "We won't have to." He pulled a lever on the console. Beneath the ship, the containment pod, the strange blue core, began to glow brighter and brighter until the light filled the entire cockpit. The engines howled like thunder. "What are you doing?" Liara cried. Aaron's voice was calm, steady, showing them what humanity calls survival instinct. Outside, the first wave of plasma fire struck, only to vanish before touching the ship. A pulse of energy burst from the Resolute, rippling across space like a living storm. The alien ship's shields flickered, systems shut down, and lights dimmed. The Trelac commander screamed through the channel. "What have you done?" Aaron's eyes gleamed. "Just leveling the field." Then the Resolute moved, faster than light, faster than thought. Human-made rail cannons roared, tearing through metal hulls like paper. Dozens of enemy ships exploded into silent fireballs. The once mighty fleet fell apart like dust in a hurricane. Liara could only watch in disbelief. The small ship that had seemed so fragile moments ago now danced among giants. Untouchable. Unstoppable. In the middle of the chaos, Aaron whispered to himself, "For Earth. For the ones who couldn't fight back." Days passed quietly aboard the Resolute. Liara learned the rhythm of the ship, the hum of engines, the faint metallic scent of recycled air, and the soft clatter of Miri's laughter echoing through empty halls. For the first time in years, her child smiled freely. Yet peace made Liara uneasy. Nothing in the galaxy came without a cost, especially not kindness. She often found Captain Aaron Hale in the control room, staring at a holographic map filled with blinking red zones. One night she finally asked, "What are those?" Aaron didn't answer immediately. His face was lit by the soft blue glow of the hologram. "Those are the systems controlled by the Trelac Empire," he said quietly. "Every red mark is a planet they've taken, or destroyed." Liara frowned. "You sound like you fought them before." He gave a small nod. "I did. Once. Long ago." She hesitated. "And lost?" Aaron's eyes turned cold. "No. We won. That's the problem." Liara didn't understand. She watched him walk to a nearby storage locker, enter a code, and pull out a small metal box. Inside were old data chips, cracked and burned. He handed one to her. "This," he said, "is from the First Contact War. Humanity wasn't supposed to exist after that. The Council erased our records. They wanted to hide what we did." Liara's voice trembled. "What did you do?" Aaron looked straight at her. "We survived." The air between them felt heavier. The lights dimmed slightly as the ship drifted into the shadow of a dying star. Miri ran into the room, clutching her toy. "Mama, the stars are dark!" Aaron knelt down beside her. "They'll shine again, little one. They always do." Liara felt something stir in her, an emotion she hadn't known in years. It wasn't fear or pity. It was respect. But then the console beeped sharply. A message flashed on the main screen. "Unauthorized human signature detected. Trelac War. Fleet en route." Aaron cursed under his breath. "They found us faster than I thought." Liara's pulse quickened. "They're tracking you." "No," he said grimly. "They're tracking what's inside this ship." He opened another compartment beneath the floor panels, revealing a sealed containment pod covered in warning symbols. Inside it glowed a strange blue core, pulsing, alive. Liara stepped back. "What is that?" Aaron's voice was low. "A relic from Earth's past. A weapon. Or maybe a memory. No one really knows, but every empire in the galaxy wants it. Because it was built by humans." She stared at the core, the light reflecting in her eyes. "You're risking everything for that?" Aaron shook his head. "Not for that. For what it represents." He looked at her, and then at Miri. "Because every time someone says humanity shouldn't exist, we prove them wrong." Outside, alarms began to wail. Dozens of red dots filled the radar. The Trelac fleet had arrived. Aaron turned to Liara, his calm returning like a storm finding focus. "Get to the lower deck. Keep your child safe. And remember—" He smiled faintly. "We may be outnumbered, but never outmatched." As the ship's guns powered up and the ship hummed softly as it cut through the dark between stars. Liara sat near the viewport, her arms wrapped around Miri, watching streaks of blue light stretch endlessly across space. The silence felt unreal, peaceful, yet heavy with questions. The human who had bought her hadn't spoken much since liftoff. He stood near the control panel, checking readouts and sending coded messages. His name, she'd learned, was Captain Aaron Hale. To her surprise, he didn't wear armor or a weapon, just a worn leather jacket and a quiet expression that carried too much history. Finally, he turned toward her. "You're not a slave here," he said simply. "You're under my protection. You work if you wish, rest if you need. No chains. Ever." Liara blinked, unsure if she heard correctly. "Protection? Why would a human offer that to me?" Aaron's lips curved into a small, tired smile. "Because once, someone did the same for me." Miri peeked out from her mother's arms. "Are you a soldier?" she asked softly. Aaron crouched down to her height. "Not anymore. I try to fix things now, not break them." The child studied his face for a long moment, then whispered, "You look sad." Aaron chuckled. "Maybe. But you two just gave me a reason not to be." Liara didn't know what to say. No one, not even her own kind, had spoken to her like that in years. The Trelac Empire treated her species as tools, not people. But this human looked at her as if she mattered. It made her uneasy and curious. The ship jolted suddenly, pulling her from thought. Red lights flashed across the cockpit. Aaron jumped to the controls. Damn! Patrol ships! Trelac scanners! They must have traced your sail record. Liara's heart froze.
They'll destroy us.
Not today, Aaron said calmly, flicking switches with sharp precision. Through the viewport, sleek alien ships appeared, their weapons glowing, the comms crackers, Cled with a deep mechanical voice. Unregistered human vessel. Surrender your cargo immediately. Aaron smirked. Typical. He leaned toward the mic. This is Captain Hale of the Earthship Resolute. You want my passengers? Come and take them. Liara stared at him.
You're taunting them? They'll kill us.
Not if they miss, he replied. His hands moved faster than she could follow. The ship spun, dove, and twisted through laser fire. Explosions lit up the stars. Miri gasped, clinging to her mother's hand. The human's voice stayed steady. Hang on tight. The Resolute broke through the blockade, engines roaring like thunder. One by one, the enemy ships vanished from the radar. When it was finally over, Liara couldn't breathe. You fought them alone? Aaron smiled faintly. You'd be surprised how many times people have underestimated humans. He turned back to her, eyes soft but serious. You're safe now. But if they were after you, it means something bigger is coming. Something dangerous. Liara met his gaze. Then, what do we do? Aaron looked out at the endless stars. We find out who they're afraid of. And why. As the ship drifted into the dark, the first spark of trust flickered between human and alien. Cold rain poured over the metal streets of the alien city. Neon signs flickered weakly, reflecting on the puddles where desperate souls walked like shadows. Liara pulled her little daughter Miri close to her chest. The child's small body trembled. She hadn't eaten for 2 days. Liara's world, once bright and full of music, had been burned to ash by the Empire. They took her home, her family, and every piece of hope she once had. Now there was only one thing left that she could still save: her child. She stopped in front of a glowing sign that said, "Property auction. Slave contracts accepted." Her throat tightened. She had heard the stories. Those who entered this place rarely came out alive or free. But Miri's small voice broke her hesitation. "Mama, I'm hungry." Those 2 words were heavier than any chain. Liara wiped her tears and whispered, "I know, little one. Just hold on a bit longer." She stepped inside the auction hall. The air smelled of oil, sweat, and fear. Dozens of other aliens stood behind glowing cages, each waiting for someone rich and cruel enough to claim them. Liara walked to the counter, where a large reptilian broker eyed her with greed. "You wish to sell yourself?" the creature hissed. Liara nodded. "Yes, just make sure my child is cared for." The broker's teeth glinted. "Depends on who buys you." Before Liara could answer, a low rumble shook the room. The crowd turned as a human ship descended outside, engines glowing like fire. The symbol on its hull, a blue eagle, made everyone whisper in fear. "Humans," someone muttered. "The Death Worlders." The broker's expression changed instantly. He straightened and hissed to the guards, "Hide the children. They don't buy slaves. They take problems." But the ship's door opened, and a tall human in a black flight jacket walked in. His expression was unreadable. His eyes, however, carried something strange. Not cruelty, not greed, but focus. "I'm looking for a volunteer worker," the man said calmly. "Someone intelligent. Someone desperate." No one spoke. Even the guards froze. Liara stepped forward before fear could stop her. "I'll go." The man turned toward her. For a moment his eyes softened. "Do you have a family?" "My daughter," she said quietly, pulling Miri closer. "She stays free." He nodded once. "Agreed. The broker blinked in disbelief. Wait, you can't just... The human tossed a silver tablet onto the table. Contract signed. She's under Earth protection now. Before anyone could protest, Liara felt a warm hand on her shoulder. The human leaned closer and said in a low voice, You're safe now. No one will hurt you or your child again. Liara didn't believe him. She had trusted before and lost everything. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw something she hadn't seen in years. Honesty.